Okay, now we're going to finish up the application. One thing I want you to check on is right-click on the project and go to Properties. And under Libraries, double-check that you have Java DB Driver. That's the name of the database driver that lets us interface between the database. If you don't have that, click the plus and say Add Library, and it should be in the list. If you use a database that the drivers don't come with NetBeans, which not every driver is there for every database, then you can download the drivers from their website if they have Java drivers. And in that case, you would just say add jar folder, and it will let you navigate to wherever you downloaded the jar files. So make sure that is selected. And then in the code, in our form here, there is a design and source tabs. You can navigate back and forth between looking at the frame in design mode or source mode. Let's go to source mode, and we want to add two imports. The first one is wherever you created the entity beans at. So I did turtle tracker desktop.entity.star. So wherever you created them, you need to import them. And you also should import javax.persistence.star. Now if you go back to the design mode and click on the button, and the properties tab, there's properties, events, and code. If you click on events, I've already done this, but I'll show you how to do it. You need to make a listener to listen if the button gets clicked. So in Java Swing, action performed is the event that happens when the button is clicked or when someone tabs to the button and hits enter. And what you do is you click on the three dots to the right, and yours will probably be empty here. You say add, and I called mine save button handler and said okay and okay. Once you do that, it'll probably switch to source mode, but whatever you call that, it'll create a method with that name. So this method, save button handler, is called when someone will click the button. So whatever code I put here will happen when it clicks the button. Let me uncomment this because yes, I did write it ahead of time to debug it. So what do I do here? The same as I did in the servlet is I created a specimen object. I called it SP. And when I added the attribute, so when I said set specimen weight, in the servlet, I got the information for the weight from the HTTP request. Here what I'll do is say the name of the text field component dot get text. Now the first two, weight and length, must be integers, and get text is a string, so I have to convert it. So I say integer dot parse it, and then I say JTF weight dot get text. For the specimen length, I say JTF length get text for health, and all the way down to location. So that will create this persistence entity object. Then I need to store it. So this works a little differently because on the web, the database connections are controlled by the application server. So there's a little bit less work for your class to interact with the database because your program just talks to the application server. So here's what you do. So there's something called an entity manager factory. If you study design patterns, you'll understand what that is. So I have to create one of those. I called mine EMF for entity manager factory. And then you say persistence.create entity manager. And then what you put in the double quotes here, if you go back to your persistence XML, is this, the name of your persistence unit. So I would even just recommend copying and pasting it. Like I would even try to retype it. So in my case, it is turtle tracker desktop PU. That's going to be exact or else it'll just blow up. And then from the entity manager factory, you can create an entity manager. I call mine EM for entity manager. And then if you study databases, everything is in a transaction. So you do a em get transaction begin, and then I can persist this specimen object, and then I commit the transaction. I close the entity manager and close the entity manager factory. And if I did this correctly, that will store the specimen information, and I'll demo it in the next video.